Hi, I'm Sarah Bowling, and this is my case study presentation for EDL850. The case presented a school in an affluent area. Roosevelt High School students and their families are engaged in academic success. They are responsive and expect high academic standards. The school is well regarded throughout the state, and its principal has received recognition for the school's performance. Dr. Forbes is seeking the most highly qualified educators for his school, but he may not have considered other qualities in his search for academic excellence. Ms. Walker has a strong academic background, which meets the high standard of the school, but little classroom experience. Parents and students have made their concerns known regarding Ms. Walker's stringent and stressful classroom. The problems with Ms. Walker's classroom became evident in the first year. Ms. Walker has been counseled on how to make her classroom less stressful, but has not completely implemented these suggestions. Now in her second year, someone has created a website allowing students to comment on Ms. Walker and her class. An email was sent to Ms. Walker advising her to view the site. Ms. Walker's reaction to the email and website are disproportionate, displaying her inexperience with high school-aged children and their behaviors. She interprets one message in particular as being threatening and becomes frightened. Dr. Forbes attempts to calm down Ms. Walker, but does not provide her with pertinent information to make a rational decision and seems to trivialize it, referring to it as a prank. Ms. Walker is already presenting conclusions on who is responsible for this and names one specific subject. Dr. Forbes presents behaviors which appear to support Ms. Walker, choosing to interview the accused youth and his friends prior to determining through the technology department any solid evidence. Ms. Walker's reactions are visceral. She is genuinely fearful and decides to make the long drive back to her parents' house. In order to move forward, we must first receive hard evidence. We must obtain objective information from the technology department to determine the origin of the email and web page. Ms. Walker has named a specific student. We must obtain any documentations regarding interactions with Ms. Walker and her students and the parents, as well as obtaining any communication received by administration from parents and students. Did Ms. Walker document her interactions with Randy Franks and his friends? We must obtain prior discipline records for all youth who have taken Ms. Walker's class. This is to determine intent as well as implementing graduated discipline. The web page is a social network. Several students most likely participated in contributing. We must thoroughly review the content of the web page in order to determine how many students contributed and their identities if possible. What was the intent of the sender of the email? We must determine if the sender of the email was responsible for developing the web page. We must determine if the sender of the email intended malice or was trying to inform Ms. Walker of the web page. It's not too late to recognize mistakes and start to fix them. We must determine what Ms. Walker's educational philosophy is and why she chose to conditionally implement suggestions for how to improve her rapport with students. In order to sustain a learning environment, we must constantly review practices, the preliminary findings that the student-teacher relationship among Ms. Walker's students has deteriorated enough to be damaging to the school and Ms. Walker's reputation. Students have inappropriately utilized the internet as an outlet to express their frustrations with Ms. Walker. Ms. Walker's behavior, fearful of her life and drawing assumptions with regard to the suspect, implies that she lacks empathetic and intuitive skills, which are vital in working with children and presenting an atmosphere of success in the classroom. The problem is twofold: students' inappropriate use of the internet and utilizing improper avenues of problem resolution, and Ms. Walker's inexperience in the classroom, inability to implement suggestions, and lack of empathy, making it difficult for her to connect with the students. In order to limit further damage to the school and Ms. Walker's reputation, The web page should be disabled. We must conduct a full investigation, concluding with the removal of the offensive web page. If the email is found to be of malicious intent, it should be closed. Should the investigation expose the students responsible, a course of discipline should be imposed, taking into consideration the student's overall academic and behavioral record. Providing transparency, students and parents will be notified or reminded of the school's internet usage policy. To emphasize the severity of the incident, students and parents will receive clear guidance regarding the consequences of disregarding the internet usage policy. If a grievance process exists, it should be evaluated to determine its effectiveness. If no process is in place, one will be instituted. Students and parents will receive clear guidance regarding the grievance process and its role in improving staff-student relations. We will meet with Ms. Walker to establish the chain of events which led up to this situation and how we can learn from them. We will also process with Ms. Walker as it is evident that she was truly shaken. We should determine the level of trauma experienced and its effect on Ms. Walker's ability to return to her classroom. There are several options we can present to Ms. Walker to include finishing out the school year in a support role while mentoring under a high-performing teacher, transferring within the district to any available and appropriate position, and inviting students and parents to a roundtable discussion of ways to resolve and repair student-teacher relations in Ms. Walker's classroom, concluding in a consensus as to whether Ms. Walker should continue to teach the class. It's important to engage all stakeholders, as it is apparent that this problem is a result of a failure to communicate and the students' feelings of disenfranchisement. Several parties will need to be involved in order to address this problem with the levity it requires. The first priority is to engage Ms. Walker and determine her feelings, the chain of events, and how she would like to proceed pending the conclusion of the investigation. The technology staff will be engaged immediately with specific deadlines required for a report out and the closing of the web page. Interviews with the students will be conducted to include Randy Franks, his friends, and any youth identified through activity on the website. Parents will be notified of the incident and investigation to include anticipated actions and deadlines. At this time, parents and students will be reminded of the school's internet policy and disciplinary actions available. If the perpetrators are identified, students and their parents shall meet to discuss disciplinary actions. Suggestions for disciplinary actions include developing a presentation about bullying, investigating the ripple effect of internet activity, and mandatory involvement in school government. In an attempt to mend fences, at the conclusion of the investigation, parents and students will be invited to attend an informational meeting. Ms. Walker will also be asked to participate in order to share the impact of this event, but also to observe the consequences of her disengagement. Her participation is not compulsory. This meeting is meant to help Ms. Walker and the school to determine how best to proceed by considering the concerns of all parties. The school's position is to support and nurture new teachers, but it also has to consider its position in the community, history of success, and positive relations with parents and students. It is important to investigate the situation objectively, avoiding disruption to the school's and students' primary roles as teachers and learners. Avoid implications of guilt unless substantiated. The incident should be dealt with as a learning opportunity for all parties. Students should learn the consequences of internet abuse and bullying. Teachers should learn to be more receptive to implementing positive suggestions and evaluating the effectiveness of the teaching style. The school should learn to be more responsive to concerns of students and parents. The case presents the following facts. A web page has been created by students of Roosevelt High with the intent to malign Ms. Walker's character and teaching style. There is ongoing conflict with Ms. Walker's teaching style and the culture of the school. The web page is a product of what can be interpreted as a failure on the part of administration to address the ongoing conflict. This case presented the consequence of an event that happens in workplaces all over the country and throughout our schools. By failing to recognize the desirable qualities of empathy, humility, and flexibility during the hiring process, Roosevelt High jeopardized its learning environment, its relationship with students and the community, as well as Ms. Walker's future as a successful teacher. Ms. Walker's exemplary academic record was not enough to make her a good fit for Roosevelt High. As a result, Ms. Walker's negative experiences may permanently affect her ability and desire to teach. It is hoped that the organization can learn from this experience and do a better job in its selection process and be more diligent in its training and employee integration. Another opportunity for improvement the school must look at is its reaction to student and parent feedback of its teachers. How did this situation devolve so that students felt their only outlet was distinctly antisocial exercise? Utilizing instruments such as a structured grievance process or student government will help to improve communication process and let students and parents feel they have a voice. It's easy to expect that a new employee who brings excellent credentials will just naturally be a good fit for the high-performing school. And it is expected that an organization will hire based on knowledge. But K-12 schools cater to a unique population, one that is continuing to develop physically as well as emotionally, and the best candidate for the job will also have an affinity with children and an ability to connect with them while maintaining a professional demeanor and successfully achieving the mission of teaching. The solutions provided in this case study appropriately demonstrate the elements of ISLLC Standard 5, objectively investigating all sides of the issue before acting exhibits integrity. Creating a solution which involves all parties and recognizes the failures of each in order to identify opportunities represents fairness. Practicing transparency throughout the process is representative of ethical manner of doing business. The solution presents integrity and ethical behavior by utilizing a fair and balanced investigation. It safeguards democracy by involving all parties and allowing due process. It promotes social justice by offering discipline that's appropriate and proportionate. The solution presents fair and equitable treatment by making no assumptions prior to a thorough investigation. It respects the feelings and opinions of Ms. Walker and allows her dignity to be involved in the deciding process. It treats people equitably by engaging all parties involved and letting them be a part of the process. The solution illustrates the administrator's professional code of ethics by developing positive outcomes such as implementing a grievance process and using alternative, teachable moment methods of discipline. The administrator seeks to do no harm by avoiding premature decisions and actions and not imposing discipline that is disproportionate. The administrator demonstrates a professional code by offering transparency throughout the process and through supporting the teacher and recognizing organizational shortcomings in an open forum. And this concludes my presentation on the case study. Thank you so much for watching.